Barca have a fantastic squad, and on their day, they can beat anybody. But even with some of these talented players, there are some glaring weaknesses and problems with each one of them. Let's start with Joan Garcia. Now, his only issue is really inexperience. He's an elite shot stopper, he's very good with the ball at his feet, but he actually hasn't played at the top level for that long. Last season was his first season in the top flight playing with Espanyol. Before that, he was in the second division of Spain. So naturally, there's going to be some issue. For example, do you remember when he came out of the box thinking he's Neuer and it led to a goal? It was a very minor error among a lot of incredible performances, but that's his only glaring weakness. He just needs to play more games behind this Hansi Flick high line, get more used to the team. But the benefit is that he's already so good. And the goalkeeping position is a position where you usually get better with age. It's like being a center back. Once you get more experiences under your belt, you become better. And he's already elite. I told you guys, there's not an actual glaring weakness in his game besides the fact that he doesn't have a ton of experience, so sometimes that leads to mistakes. Now, he saved Barca way more times than he's going to cost them, but that's just something to keep in mind as the seasons go by. You are naturally going to see some issues or mistakes from him. The other thing, if we want to really nitpick, is he can be better at dominating his box, but again, we're nitpicking. The reign of Ter statue is over. Joan Garcia is better than him in every aspect, and he's the guy in between the sticks for the next decade. Now, let's start with the left back when we go through the back line. Balde's biggest weakness and problem is his crossing. He's an excellent fullback, really good on the ball. He can pretty much break a press all by himself by just carrying it between the lines. Nobody can stop him when he gets going. He's so quick. But the problem is when he gets to the attacking third, his decision making could be better and his crossing can be way better. Now, sometimes he has great moments. Remember, it was his cross to Lewandowski that got Barca a goal in El Clasico. But hey, even a broken clock is right twice a day. He needs to improve that part of his game. And I'm not talking about just crossing, just passing in general in the attacking third. Sometimes he dribbles when he should have passed. A lot of times he overhits a basic cross or he puts it in the air when it should have been on the ground. He easily has the potential to be the best left back in the world. He has world-class qualities, but to get to that level, we need to see more consistency from him in the attacking third. Much better crosses, more reliability when he puts the ball in the box. His stats would go up, Barca would score even more goals. I mean, when you have a player like Lewandowski, the cross doesn't have to be perfect. It just has to be a good cross, and Barca are cooking. But unfortunately, as we have seen time and time again, Balde needs to improve in that area. If he improves there, I don't see anybody, not even Nuno Mendes, being better than him. Then you have Gerard Martin. Now, Gerard Martin as a left center back has basically been Gerard Maldini. But even when this guy is doing good, I get nervous. The analogy I always use is watching Gerard Martin play really good as a center back or even as a left back. It's like watching your dog drive your car perfectly. Huh? Yes, he's driving it and he's not hitting anybody, but at the end of the day, behind the wheel, it's still a dog. Now, I don't mean any disrespect to Gerard Martin. It's just an analogy to show that even when he's doing amazing, I still feel nervous watching him play. Now, there's a lot of things he's great at. He's good at winning duels. He's very aggressive. He uses his height to his advantage, but he's also not the best on the ball necessarily, and his recovery speed isn't great. You guys remember this save from Joan Garcia? Incredible save, world class. But you know why he had to make this save? Because Gerard Martin was moving like a snail trying to recover. Now, again, I am being harsh on this guy. When he's been asked to step up, he's done really well. And as a left center back, he's much better than he is at left back. But this video is about problems and weaknesses with every Barca player. And with him, I see a guy that can be clumsy on the ball at times, and his lack of speed will be punished against better teams. Yes, when you're rotating in La Liga and playing La Liga fodder, you can easily play him at the back and he will do the job, as we have seen so far this season. But in the Champions League, against the elite teams, I still wouldn't trust this guy. People bring up his multiple assists against Inter Milan, but while he set up 2 goals, he cost the team 3. Great left center back, but there are some glaring weaknesses in his game. Then you have Cubarsi. Now, Cubarsi does a lot of things right. I mean, he's incredible for his age. The problem with him is he's very weak. And it's a weird conundrum because I remember when he broke onto the scene under Xavi in 2024, I watched this guy manhandle Victor Osimhen, who's literally one of the most physical strikers out there. And then he did a great job against Mbappe back when he was still at PSG. The problem though is in La Liga especially, he just gets bullied by any big striker, whether it's Sorloth, who turns into Holland against Barca, whether it's Borja Iglesias, or even that guy on Mallorca with the ponytail. These guys just bully him. Now, he's a young kid, so obviously he still has to develop. He's only going to get better with age, as I told you guys. Center backs do that. But he just has to be more physically imposing, be more aggressive, be better in duels. That's one thing Gerard Martin does really well, especially in the air. Because Cubarsi, he's good on the ground. He's very good at winning duels on the ground, winning tackles, getting his foot in, getting those blocks, and of course his passing, it's chef's kiss. But he gets bullied a lot. That's why he was at his best when he was playing next to Inigo Martinez. And that's what Flick had in mind when he tried to play Araujo next to him. Somebody aggressive, somebody strong is a very good partner for Cubarsi. But Cubarsi himself needs to beef up. He needs to be better and not just get pushed around like a rag doll. Especially recently, his development hasn't been exactly linear. He's been cut open by a lot of players. I mean, Esteval broke him. I've seen a ton of attackers basically turn him into a pretzel. Now, part of that is because of the back line, and the high line always leaves the defenders exposed, so they can't afford to make a mistake. But Cubarsi can get a lot better. And that's a great sign for Barca fans because this guy has future captain potential. Then we have Ronald Araujo, and I mean, do I even need to say anything?
Brother, this guy stinks!
Fast, strong, but no footballing IQ. And I don't want to bash on him because obviously reports came out that he's taking a mental break from the team because of the mistakes. And mental health is never a joke, so if this guy's really struggling, I'm not gonna harp on him even more. But we can be critical. He's a grown-ass man. He's a player. We can criticize his playing ability, not him as a person. And the only glaring weakness, unfortunately for him, is just his footballing IQ. He has all the ingredients to be one of the best center backs in the world. Unfortunately, his decision-making under pressure is just not good enough. He steps up when he should have dropped off. He drops off when he should have stepped to get players offside. Again, I've said this before, on a team that plays a low block and plays very compact, he could be amazing. If he was an Atletico Madrid center back, he would probably be a Ballon d'Or candidate. But at Barca, too many mistakes, too often in the biggest games. Then we have Jules Kounde, and Kounde's glaring weakness is two things. Number one, it's his ability on the ball. Now, yes, at times he has looked amazing. You have his hat-trick of assists against Red Star last year. You have his goal in the Copa del Rey. You even have his performance against Newcastle. But as far as I'm concerned, those are too far and few apart. Sometimes this season, I see Yamal trying to play you touch, I touch football with him, you know, trying to recreate Messi and Dani Alves. But in reality, it looks like Yamal is playing with a Make-A-Wish kit. And I do feel bad for Kounde because even though he's played at right back at the international level and for Barca for many years now, he's still never going to be a natural right back. Like, if he was a center back, his ball playing ability would be way above average. But as a fullback, it's below average. Now, when Barca are doing well, most people don't even notice because Yamal carries the creativity all by himself on that right-hand side.
But yeah, I think we understand each other pretty well. Lamine is very easy to play with.
Kounde just has to be solid defensively. But when Barca are struggling and they need something, Kounde just doesn't offer much. Now, that would be okay if it wasn't for a second glaring weakness, and that's that defensively sometimes he just turns off. This is the worst thing you could possibly do as a center back playing fullback. Like, you being limited on the ball is standard. Nobody's expecting you to be Dani Alves or Cafu or Javier Zanetti. But the least you could do is be a defensive rock. And Kounde is for the most part. But sometimes, you've all seen it, he forgets his man or he makes this really bozo mistake. I mean, sometimes him and Araujo have been the Chuckles brothers. Go look at the goal that Chelsea scored. Ferran Torres did everything to try and clear that ball, and Kounde, he looked like my center backs in FIFA Ultimate Team. He just like auto-locked onto the ball and put it into the net. So unfortunately, that's a big issue. You cannot be a defensive liability. Not if you're going to be that limited going forward. Then we have Eric Garcia. Now, Eric Garcia is so well-rounded. He pretty much gives you a 7 out of 10 in all departments. His biggest problem or glaring weakness is that he could be much better on the ball. He's not the most press-resistant guy. He's great at winning the ball back and in duels, but he's just not going to give you that much going forward. He'll give you a nice simple pass here and there. He can receive the ball on the half turn, but if you press him enough, he's going to fumble the ball. Another player who suffers from the same thing is Casado. Now, the funny part about Casado is he's not the most press-resistant player. He's not your Jong or Pedri, but he's quite direct in his passing. If you guys remember some of the biggest wins from last season with Barca against Bayern Munich, against Real Madrid, a lot of the goals in those big games, not a lot of the goals, but some of the best goals came from Casado being direct. He played these long balls but in behind. He found the pass right away. It might seem basic, but it's something that someone like Frankie de Jong, for example, doesn't do. Casado finds the open man. He plays that penetrative pass instead of just focusing about recycling possession and keeping it simple. And a lot of times, that's all Barca needs. One through ball to unleash the likes of Raphinha or Yamal, and Barca are going to punish you in transition. Now, I brought up Frankie de Jong because his biggest weakness is that he plays too safe. Now, people were making fun of him spinning like a ballerina, and yeah, it's fun for Twitter likes, and maybe even I'll join in one time. But in reality, that's an important skill set. Him being able to turn and keep the ball is essential. You want to know how essential? Real Madrid would pay big money to have a player like that in their midfield right now, because that's exactly what those guys are missing. The problem is the ballerina spins and keeping it safe only work if Pedri's next to Frankie de Jong. When Pedri isn't there, you need more from Frankie, more progression. He needs to carry the ball, play more forward passes, create big chances. And unfortunately, sometimes he's just reluctant to do it, because I know he can do it. We've seen him do it before at Ajax. counterattacks, and we've even seen him do it before at Barca. He just needs to do it more consistently. Like I said, holding the ball, dictating the tempo, recycling possession, these are very important things and are essential when Pedri's next to him. But if Pedri isn't there, Frankie has to do more. And even when Pedri is there, there's no reason that Frankie can't do that. Safe is good, but not all the time. Sometimes it makes Barca too predictable. The other big issue with Jong is the same thing as Kounde, ball watching. Sometimes Frankie just doesn't cover his runners. If you guys remember, when Barca initially signed him, a lot of people thought he was going to be Busquets' heir. They thought he's going to be the Dutch Busquets, play as that sole pivot in the six, and just dictate everything. Now, nobody can be Busquets, but Frankie had a lot of the great qualities you look for. Incredibly press resistant, very good at receiving the ball on the half turn in between the lines, very good at just keeping possession. The problem is defensively he can be a huge liability. Flick has reduced that a ton by playing him in a double pivot in a 4-2-3-1 as opposed to being the sole pivot in a 4-3-3. But still, this guy forgets to track runners sometimes. He sometimes pushes forward to get the ball when he should have dropped back. He needs to get better at that. Defensively, he's not actually bad. That's why at times we've seen him even be used at center back. It's the ball watching when he's not the one actually defending 1v1. Then we have Pedri. Now Pedri's the golden boy. He really doesn't have many problems, if at all. There's no glaring weaknesses in his game. People used to say it's his health, but now he's been very good at staying injury free. Not to mention that the health issue wasn't really his fault. He would just run into the ground. That's more of a Barca issue than a Pedri problem. Then people like to say that he's not defensively the best, but I can tell that they don't watch Barca games. They just look at his skinny frame and assume he doesn't do the defensive work, when that couldn't be further from the truth. If you look at the defensive metrics and just watching him play, he's actually excellent at recovering the ball. He's great at winning duels, and he's willing to do the dirty work even though he's meant to be the orchestrator. The only problem I would say with Pedri is we just want to see more goals, more assists, more big chances created. A big part of that is not his fault. He creates a ton of opportunities. People just seem to be allergic to scoring the chances he creates. Like seriously, he can easily get into double-digit assists if these guys bother to score. So I would say with him, it's just seeing more, because other than that, he's honestly perfect. He's the best central midfielder in the world. Maybe you want to see him impacting the game more off the ball with his defensive work rate still, and then getting more goals like what he did in the Copa del Rey. But really, I'm nitpicking here. And then we move to the next golden boy, Lamine Yamal. Now, of course, everybody in the comments is going to assume that I'm going to say his problem or weakness is ego, but that is not true. His biggest issue is finishing. Yamal's biggest weakness is that he's not clinical. That's pretty much it. For some reason, this guy is better at shooting from outside the box than finishing easy chances in the box. If he was more clinical in front of goal, he would get so many more goals because he's always in the right area. He creates good opportunities. Other people actually do a good job of setting him up in the box. He just has to be better at finishing. I don't know why he's better at scoring from 30 and 35 yards out or from the top of the 18-yard box than in the 6-yard box. But this guy, if he wants to get to that next level, that's what he has to figure out. His ego is not an issue. 90% of the times, it's people mistranslating his quotes or taking them out of context. If you actually watch his interviews and listen to what he says with the tone that he says it in, he's very rarely saying anything that's cocky. Yes, he's a confident kid and he backs himself. But like I said, most of the things are taken out of context. Like what he said about the Ballon d'Or back when Nations League was going on.
Que, no sé, yo soy de los que vota al mejor jugador del año, pero si la gente quiere jugarse a jueves, pues jugamos a jueves.
The only thing he said that might be seen as cocky is the things he said about Real Madrid rigging people.
Sí. Roban a los, o sea, se quejan.
And again, I don't understand how that's cocky. He's not hyping himself up. He's just calling out Real Madrid's hypocrisy where they rob teams and then they claim they're the victim. So I don't think ego is an issue. I actually think Barcelona can benefit a lot from having a superstar like Yamal who is actually confident in his own abilities. People were talking about added pressure to El Clasico because Yamal said something. These guys have to be new fans. This matchup is always intense. It used to be way more hostile. And the people saying they hate Yamal because he's cocky, remember, these guys hated Messi and that guy doesn't say a word. They just hate greatness. And then we have Lewandowski. His glaring weakness is that he's an unk. He's getting older. He doesn't have the same mobility. Yes, he does TikToks and he does yoga with his wife. And he actually has incredibly good longevity, but you can't beat Father Time. The other glaring weakness with Lewandowski is I feel like he can be way more clinical. Despite him being arguably the greatest striker of the last decade, this guy still misses some easy chances. He could have way more goals considering how many opportunities Raphinha and Pedri and Yamal make for him. So that's where I would like to see more from Lewandowski, and that's his glaring weakness. Then we have Raphinha. Now Raphinha's big weakness is his right foot. The guy scored one beautiful goal against Bayern with it, and then I never saw it again. The other issue with him isn't really Raphinha himself. I see it as more of a tactical issue. When you put a left-footed player on the left-hand side, it becomes very difficult for him to create opportunities. Like, very difficult. He has to hug the touchline and he can't cut inside. When you have a left-footed player on the right side or a right-footed player on the left side, that winger can cut inside and it creates havoc and chaos for the defenders. They have to make way more decisions on the fly. They have to communicate way more, and there's just more options because he can cut inside and shoot, or he can play the fullback overlapping. Either way, there's more options. But with Raphinha, he's kind of stuck on the left-hand side, and I mean, Flick has orchestrated that way. Raphinha is more like a second striker than he is a left winger. In fact, if you watch Barca closely, Balde is the guy who offers the whip. He's the real left winger. Raphinha goes more inside and makes these direct runs in behind. The problem with that is against some of the more elite teams, it becomes an issue because there's a lack of creativity on the left-hand side, because the system is designed to get Raphinha in behind defenders, or at least get him on the move. So he can't create as much because he can't really cut inside because he'll be on his weaker foot. That's the same reason when Balde gets injured, there's a lack of creativity on that side because they need a fullback who can carry the ball all by himself, because Raphinha is not going to do it. That's not his job. Then we have some of the other players. Olmo and Lopez, for me, I just want to see more consistency from him, more shooting, trying to get more goals and assists, because I love the intensity he plays with and the aggression. Maybe he can tone that down a little bit, but I really think it's what makes him unique, so it's not a glaring weakness. You just want to see more from him, especially against low block. Dani Olmo, the big glaring weakness is obviously his health. I know he can't control that. It's the same reason why I didn't put it as a glaring weakness for Balde, but it's still an issue. And with Olmo, it's more about just being present in game. He was such a big money signing, yet I feel like in a lot of games, he's just a passenger. Olmo has superstar qualities. Barca just need to see more of it in games. You cannot afford to be a passenger when you're the number 10 in a team. I'm talking about the role he plays as an attacking midfielder, not his actual number. You need to see more from Olmo, more goals, more assists. At the minimum in La Liga, I get it, maybe his playstyle and the way that he operates doesn't translate against the elite teams in the Champions League, but at least against La Liga fodder, you better put the ball in the back of the net. That's what made him so good in his first season. Even though he was injured a lot, you could always ask for Olmo time in La Liga. Ferran Torres' glaring weakness is obviously his inability to be clinical. The guy suffers from what I like to call the Darwin Núñez conundrum. That's when a player does everything else right, good work rate, good pressing, gets into excellent positions, but he can't finish it. And unfortunately, Ferran Torres is exactly that type of guy. He's a great rotational option, very good super sub, very good player to have in the squad. He just can't be a player that is relied on regularly. I know he's had some great moments, but you have to keep in mind, he has to get 5 chances just to score 1. And against the elite teams in the business end of the season, that's not going to be enough. But like I said, he's a great super sub. You just can't be going into a big Champions League game with Ferran Torres as your starting striker or your starting left winger. If he was more clinical, he'd be deadly because he's always in the right positions, and players like Yamal, Fermin Lopez, Lewandowski, Olmo, they find him. But then in front of goal, it's basically a coin toss every single time if he's going to score. For Marcus Rashford, I would say it's his inability to keep the ball and decision making. To be honest, I think I could put it all under an umbrella of football IQ. The poor guy has not been coached properly in years at Manchester United, so he's just behind everyone at Barca in terms of developing his footballing intelligence. Because sometimes he doesn't press the correct way, his decision making isn't the best, he dribbles when he should shoot, he shoots when he should have passed. You have to give him the benefit of the doubt because the guy came from Manchester United. They basically just told him to run and shoot for like 5 years. Then the other players, they all fit under the same thing, inexperience. Barca don't have a lot of depth. Pretty much everybody on the bench is like a kid. So players like Marc Bernal, Dro, Rooney Bargaji, these guys all need to get more experience. That's their glaring weakness. They haven't even played enough football for us to find a glaring weakness in their actual ability. Especially someone like Marc Bernal, who is an excellent player, but he got injured at the worst time in his development. So it's going to take years for him to get back. Gavi, unfortunately, is injured, but with him, I would say maybe watch his aggression and be better with the ball at his feet. But unfortunately, that guy's been injured for so long that it's hard to criticize his abilities or even talk about them because it's been ages since he was on the pitch. Now, like I said, although there are some weaknesses in all of the players, as a team, Barca are a very good squad, especially on their day. To see how Hansi Flick transformed these guys back into being among Europe's elite, you have to watch this video right here.